in a pile of puke for the rest of our lives. I'm like, no fucking way.
Oh, that's why you came here, because you're gonna clean up. You're the cleanup crew.
I think we're live now. There we are live. Give me half a sec. Oh, we got some of that. We are.
I
You
hear
just
it.
heard some
I
of that.
hear it.
There we go. Okay. So just let me, for some reason, it only lets me do my friends here. I'm going to make it public. And we are rocking and rolling. Okay. So who hasn't felt the 555 GWS and who hasn't felt the whole world go insane around you? Um, who hasn't going through some massive family dynamics
Oh,
things? Who hasn't uh, been forced to look inside themselves and who they are and what they do and stuff really deeply? Uh, I was just watching Anya's live before she came on, and she said, "This is the first time I've been happy to go to a therapist." You said, right?
oh my God. I was so thrilled. I thought it was on Tuesday and I was so excited, but then I reread the email and it was on Thursday. And so I was like, oh no, so excited. It felt like Disneyland straight up.
Okay. You're going to a therapist and talking about your shit, right? So,
Yep.
woohoo! And you survived, and we'll get into that here in a minute. Um, I am so my nervous system
Mm-hmm.
yesterday and today both were shattered. Uh, I got a. I'm going to speak to my experience. There's a lot of people that don't want me to talk about my experience because it makes them feel uncomfortable because it might shine some light on their experience. But fuck that. I'm not going to allow that to
Censor,
keep
yeah.
codependence and that keep playing so that nobody has to look at themselves. I am here to shine a light and make people feel uncomfortable because I will not have conversations that are not the conversations that are actually having. I will not play that codependent family dynamic game where it's like we don't talk about that in this family and this isn't this and you're a black sheep and you're not allowed to say those things because you make us feel uncomfortable about speaking about truth. Fuck no, I'm not gonna lie to make someone stay codependent. And if that's heard and that's received in a way that feels hurtful, look inside and feel where that hurtful is. But um, oh, I was so excited. Wednesday, which was yesterday, my son and I were going to go to my mom and dad's and have lunch with my mom to celebrate her Mother's Day. And we were going to get some compost and go to my trailer and talk to them 3 different times just to make sure, because in the past there's been times when up to the last minute it was like no, or it was yes all the way up until the last minute and that was no. And then Wednesday morning, 8 o'clock, as I'm just waking up, I got a phone call from my dad, and he said, uh, "We'll still help you get the compost, but your mother doesn't feel safe, and we're not going to allow you to go for lunch with her now."
Wow.
Out of the blue. And then I said, okay. And then I spoke about some other experiences. I'll talk later, but my brother won't allow me to speak of anything that involves him in our family now. He told me that crystal clear today. So I'm really tired of people not looking at themselves, but telling me what I can and can't say because it makes them feel uncomfortable. Fuck that. Clear and done. So, anyways, it was like I felt like a leper all of a sudden. It's like, oh, he made some references to your views on COVID and all this kind of stuff, and they don't align with ours. And everybody's been vaccinated. My dad's been twice, and my mother's once. And I thought we were past all that, but absolutely not. Um, then it got to the point where he was getting angry at me, and I said, "Well, I love you, love you, love you very much. I can't deal with this in this way that you're choosing to deal with it," because they weren't talking about the fear. They weren't talking about any of that. It was just like we weren't within the bounds. We didn't get tested. We didn't do all this stuff, and I'm just like, "Okay, I love you. Goodbye. I'm not planning to talk anytime soon because I'm really, really hurt." And it kind of sat there for the rest of the day, and then he made a text message later in the afternoon saying he was sorry or whatever, but it was so discombobulated it didn't even make any sense. um
It's the Matrix frying.
well, frying, exactly. And then I responded back and I said, there's fear there. And until we can talk about the fear and we can talk about what your requirements are and all this kind of stuff, I'm not going to be made bad over and over and over again. And you change your mind every time. At Easter, the same thing happened a bunch of other times before, where it was like the fear came up right at the moment that it was starting to happen, and it was all my fault. And no. And then my son felt compelled to write a long letter to his grandparents about how he's felt and how they treated him and how they haven't shown up to certain things in his life. And then they didn't respond to that. But today we got this codependent kind of message saying it appears that everything's been damaged and you turned the rest of the family against us. And if you can find a mediator or something, maybe we can salvage the last gasps of what we have. And this is from my mother telling me that we're going to go sit with a mediator and sort all this kind of stuff out when she can't even have a conversation about what's going on. And it was just sad.
Wow. It's like she's continuing a story.
Well, it's the story of we don't have any wounded in our family. I can't now talk about my mother's experience. I'll give her this. I won't speak of it. But how can a son not speak of his mother's experience if it affected him some way? It makes it impossible for me to heal or the whole thing to be healed by cutting it off and saying that's makes me too uncomfortable. At one point she said yes. So go back in my lives and I'd be happy to have you understand what happened to me to that point. But now I'm not permitted to speak of how I got sexual wounding, how all these things happened and were transposed because my mother's not comfortable with saying that. Are we hiding everything? We're sweeping under the rug the things that are making us feel uncomfortable. She's over 70 years old. It's like,
yeah.
And there's millions of women that have had the exact same experience. What's shameful about it? So
I think, with our parents, it comes from a very different outlook. It's just way old school, like where they didn't talk about their feelings. Like they saw World War I, II, whatever, Great Depressions. And so I think that like hardened them because the same things happened with my mom. Like,
I hear you. And I have compassion for that. Keep going.
Yeah. No, I mean, she didn't, I don't think she got like sexually assaulted or anything, but she's very hardened. And when you try to talk to her in a calm way and, walk down the emotions and like call her out very gently, like she freaks out. Like that happened today with I'm so proud of my sister because my sister finally stepped into her power because my mom is very reactive. Like everything is a big drama. It could be like moving the laundry bin 2 inches and it'll be like her at the top of her lungs. It's an unconscious thing. But finally today my sister stood up to her and was like, why are you yelling? Like you don't need to raise your voice. And so my sister was in her power and I was just like thumbs up to her, but it freaked my mom out and my mom got so defensive over it, but she doesn't see that. And so to your point, like our that other generation, like it's just talking about feelings, like that is not
right. And could she stand in the mother dynamic? Could she stand? Because that doesn't fit in the picture that that mother might have a wound or the mother might have been abused or whatever. I conjecture most women. Is your mother Russian as well or just your dad?
Everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So even then it's even more instilled that it's just like be strong and take it inside and you will resolve it by sitting with it or whatever, but it's not. It's just festering.
Yeah.
Because that's societally what keeps us in control. I think it's a seed of communism, maybe. But it's underneath where there's this thing that hardens you so that I've met many Russian women. They're beautiful. They have these wide open hearts, but all their trauma is in like this box that's right here that no one can talk to. And it's scary.
Maybe with your mom, like, there's like a shame because she doesn't feel pure. And as a mother, like her purity was, taken away.
I honor all of that. And here's the crux of it. My mother shared that it was, and explained it to me one time after I did some deep healing work. That made it part of my experience because I then knew why I felt a whole bunch of different ways of how I saw women, how I pictured sexuality, because it was all framed in this wound. that happened. It was her wound. And yes, I'm healing my piece, but we're in the epigenetic lineage of cleaning up all this shit that's been pouring down the pipe. God knows, maybe her mother and the mother before and the mother before all had this. And if we don't shine light on it and we don't get it out that it's okay that it happened, not that the act happened, but the wound has been propagating, and then we speak of it. And then it's got air to it, it's got light to it, and then the density goes, and all that pain and the suffering that we've been healing or feeling is gone.
The
Because
story goes.
yeah, it's like it's not a shadow anymore. It's got light shining into it, and now I can see it, and I can let all the emotions go and be pure, be all those things that mother. It was taken from her before she even had a choice. So, anyways, that's as deep as I'm going to go. I'm not going to talk about what it was, but Mom, if you watch and you can't see how that affected me, and you want to take away the fact that I can heal that and talk about it for myself and myself alone, not shaming you or whatever, I'm really, really sorry. But I can't not talk about parts of me and the way you were and the way you handled me and speak of different things. I can't heal unless I'm given some level of permission for that. And I'm working on it. And I'm going to do it in this really stilty way now to try and meet what she asked, because I'm integral and I have integrity about those things. But there's a deep wound inside of me of wounded little girls coming into my life, because that's how I started off. That's how sexuality was seen. That was how mothers was seen. That was how anybody, I couldn't see women in any other way because that was the only frame I had.
Yeah.
To say I can't have that means I have to stop, and nobody's going to fucking stop me ever, because I feel light. I'm starting to get to clear all that stuff, and I love it. And I love that all those experiences happened, and I don't shame anyone. I don't, whatever. So, but there's a whole bunch of people codependently in my family. So that's what the next thing I want to talk about is family dynamics. How many people in their family dynamics have, this is the thing we don't talk about. This is the thing that's the undertone of how we deal with each other. You said your mother has some trauma and everybody gets screamed at because they moved the laundry basket or whatever. There's this fucking underneath family dynamic where everybody walks on tiptoes around the person and their wounds, because that's the only way you can coexist together in the same house. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Bad thing, but you nailed it. Eggshells.
Ooh.
And with my mom, she has the woundedness. She can't, I don't even know if I said that word correctly just now, just all fumbled, but she can't be wrong. Like, even if you were the one that got hurt and you were upset, like you couldn't be, it was wrong for you to feel upset over her actions, and it was still somehow your fault, and you would find yourself apologizing just to clear the fucking air.
And how many times have you been shamed or guilted, or maybe she went to tears to get everybody to stop talking about that thing, and then made it about her rather than dealing with the energy of what really needs to be talked about?
Yeah.
I've lived with that my whole entire life. It's a state that I go to sometimes, not anymore. I now see it, but you curl up in a little ball, say you're bad, 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 and everybody's making you bad, bad, bad. And then everybody's energy shifts to help soothe the wounded little crying part in the middle of the room. But it doesn't fix anything. It never sorts out the thing that's underneath. So everybody just shies away, and then they want to protect that person so they don't have to see this outward emotion and this mess. And it's like a huge pile of codependency because nobody ever talks about the thing. It's like, okay, why can't we ever get to the bottom of why you have to cry?
Yeah.
You're not broken. You're not wounded. You're not hurt. You're not a bad girl. You're not a whatever. You're beautiful. And then if you could get out from underneath that and get that coping mechanism dealt with, because nobody will ever talk about it. It'll be like, speak around it. It's like, oh, how are you feeling today? Oh, okay, you're feeling better. So then you're a little closer, and then you can talk, because that unexposed wound could just explode like a landmine at any moment. And then everybody's in their wound. How many people live in that family? I will guarantee more than half, probably almost all of you, have had some level of a parent that's that way, or a sister or brother, and it's their coping mechanism.
Yeah. And
And
there's
you
nothing
have to
wrong.
shift yourself to be in that family, to
Mm-hmm.
be compatible.
Mm-hmm. And that bleeds to any other external relationship, whether work, love, or friendship, or teachers, whatever.
Mhm. They all have their little mechanism that keeps them from having to deal with their shit. Either they get angry or hit. How many people do you know that are bullies and they're so insecure about themselves? They got to have that power over somebody. So they're beating them up, punching them all the time because they're so feeling so insecure inside.
Well, the new bully is also the woke culture.
The work culture,
The woke, when
woke
someone's
culture. Okay. Yeah.
woke, where they're self-righteous and they
Yeah.
think they're doing a good thing, but they're actually just bullies.
I know better than you and my way's better. And what the fuck's wrong with you? My brother tried to tell me that today. It's like, I said, my little boy still needs some healing. And he's like, you are 51 years old. When the fuck are you going to get dealing with your little child and be over that? And this is a yoga teacher that worked with people. And I'm speaking of my brother and my experience of what it was, but he didn't say what the fuck. He just said, when are you going to get over talking about your little boy? Isn't it time for it to be done and healed? And I'm like, it never ends. It's part of the experience. And until my little boy can walk fully beside me, and he can 95% of the time, I'm going to speak about him because he's not going to hide in the closet. But to me, that says something else. And I'm not going to speak about his experience or whatever, but it's like, where do you get off telling me that I need to heal some more? So,
Yeah, it's like, just get over it already.
how many times is that? So that goes back to the codependence of our family. It's like, oh, everybody's protecting mom. And if you wouldn't talk about your little boy, you wouldn't have to talk about woundedness and all this kind of stuff. So then none of us would feel uncomfortable anymore.
Right. It all goes to just not wanting to look at the actual truth and the toxicity. It's just, let's just pretend like, I mean, it's kind of a reflection of society in general, where we're like, let's not talk about this big thing. Let's just all try to get back to normal. Let's get vaccinated. Let's get back to normal so we can like go back.
So can I ask you? I don't want to get too deep into just mine. I'll reflect mine, but how much do you feel the codependence of your mother and father and the family has actually held you back as a human being?
Yo, 100%.
It's
And
massive.
your family and the codependency, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, like, it is what blocks the shit that you are calling in.
And to grow in your light and your expansion. Keep going.
More than likely, the reason why you're not getting that job or that paycheck or that dream lover or whatever is because of some sort of weird block or some sort of guilt that has that enmeshment where, like, for instance, for me, if I outshine my parents, then they will think I don't need them anymore.
Or that you've somehow shrank their accomplishment because you did better than them.
And like, ironically, it's like, my mom told me this the other day. She's like, I just want to see you pay for your own apartment and have a job. I was like, thanks, Mom. I was like, God, are you listening?
Yeah. And where's that come from? Her thing about money, and you're not independent yet, and your age and all this kind of stuff, and you should have been married by now because all women in her culture were that.
Yes.
That was the nice version.
Yes.
So I would picture, if you kind of close your eyes and look at yourself, 80% of your programming is from birth, was probably your parents and your financial or family upbringing, which includes your culture, like you said, Russian
immigrants,
immigrant, were living in the USA, what religion you were, what your parents said. Then after the 80%, there comes like probably about a 20% that's our friends and our schooling, and there's a bunch more that's religion on top of that,
TV,
and government and state. All those things create a societal norm in you for what's okay to be successful and to be good
Yeah.
in the societal judgment.
I didn't even learn or see the codependency until like late into 2020. I didn't know. I didn't know I had this big codependency with my parents.
Mhm,
I had no idea until someone opened my eyes to it, and then I saw it everywhere.
mhm. And it's in everybody, it's in everything, even with our relationships with lovers or partners or whatever, because they're parents and you got to come see my parents and will they accept you? And how much is your mother's judgment or acceptance coming into picking the male and the dad, and is he strong and is he blah 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 blah, all based on his, my brother calls them pillars. There's like these 5 pillars that support us, like our family and our government and our religion and all these kind of things. Now, what we're going through is looking at the mess that those pillars and the norming that those pillars have caused to make us not choose ourselves completely and totally. Money doesn't grow on trees, so it's really hard to get. So from now on, you're programmed that it's hard to get.
And you got to work hard to make a living.
Yeah,
You
and you got to
gotta
get
suffer.
married and have kids because you got to program or progenate your species and
Yeah.
the name.
And like, when are you gonna have grandkids? I mean, when I want to have grandkids. Like, when are you gonna
Mhm.
have kids? I want to be a grandma. All my
I think,
friends are grandmas.
well, and they're feeling lesser because they don't have that little baby to play with and toss them back to you to clean the dirty diaper or whatever, so they get to play all the time, right?
Yeah.
That's the price or the reward of having kids, and then eventually them having grandkids, because you get to play with them and have fun, and there isn't all the responsibility in the same way.
Right. Yeah.
So to awaken fully and to stand in your full power and light, I believe this is one of the initiations, what I'm going through right here and right now, and you're getting versions of it as well, to choose yourself.
Yes.
I'm a 51-year-old man, or almost, and my dad's 75. Am I equal to him? Abso-fucking-lutely. And I owe him no penance. I owe him no responsibility. I know they bore me, and I'm very appreciative and glad, and will do anything in my power to revere them for all those things. But if I'm going to wake up, I can't say in that familial codependence and really fly. And really fly is be wealthy, do better than my dad, live with multiple partners maybe, or whatever I choose in my life that's different than the Catholic Church, the familial requirement. So I literally had to be okay with stepping back, letting them have their story of what was going on, and being okay that I'm not compatible with that, or that this push that it's broken so badly that we're not together anymore. They'll always be my parents. And I always want to spend time with them, but not in a way where it's so codependent or it's so stuck in the old, in the 3D. I will come and shine. Let's have a barbecue. Let's sit on the beach together. Let's go in the boat or whatever. But if I got to talk about the past and work and all that stuff to feel like we're communicating or family, I just want to have fun. That's fun for the future or in the right now, not do you remember when we did this? Or that's memories.
Let's build on new memories.
Let's make new ones that we can remember even better, that are from a better place, and it didn't involve work and where we moved to and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that those things are wrong. It's just when they're said over and over and over again to make everybody feel joined to that energy, are we creating new, or are we just sitting in that bubble of that old comfort, which there's so much more now to be able to possibly imagine, experience.
This I was listening to Jen Sincero. She had a book that came out called You Are a Badass. She was being interviewed, and she was saying how family is familiar. So they're not going to be used to what you are integrating in this newness, this new version of Paul.
Mhm.
They're used to the old version of Paul that is familiar to the family. That is what they are known you to be, because that keeps their story safe and intact.
Mhm.
And since you are kind of a quote unquote renegade, you're changing the story that damages their, their
It doesn't
story.
damage it. I just unwind my piece. They can choose or not choose to have the same belief. But if they insist for me to be part of the family to have that same belief, you've made it impossible.
Yeah.
It's they stop or you're not allowed anymore, or I don't know what version of that is, but it's kind of like it's either like us or them. You're like go
Yeah.
forward or stay with us.
Yeah.
But I can't feel safe in that same way. It doesn't feel safe. It just feels wounded and broken that we're not talking about the truth. It's like phone me up and say, hey, we're really scared today, and I'd really like to not do this instead, rather than like, oh no, we can't now, and not for reasons why or whatever. It's bad, and you're just like, I'm not going to be blamed for this. It's like it. I never got told why I couldn't, other than I'm scared because of the news. Well, what are you scared about? Why are we talking about that? Why aren't we saying, okay, well, I'll keep a 5 meter distance. Maybe we'll get lunch and I'll just put it on your box and I'll sit on the grass and you can sit up the stairs. Why
Or do
did you
a
have
Zoom
to smash it?
call.
What's that?
Do a Zoom call if it's
Well,
that.
I was willing to go all the way there and get her a meal and all this kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
it was like, that was,
What do you, is there a comment? Are you reading?
no, well, there's a few comments. I'm just, you can see how red my face is. It's like, this is
Uh,
hard because I'm now looking at every element of my safety,
yeah.
of, oh, well, if I break this thing with my parents, well, I'm not wanting to break. I don't want to not ever see them again.
Yeah.
But if it's over my dead body, unless you do this or whatever, I can't comply. So
Yep.
I'm left with no other choice. And I love them for that. And I won't ever force anybody or whatever, but I won't have a conversation about what's not being said because it's a fucking waste of time and it just makes me angry because there's no truth in it.
Yeah.
And that anger or that frustration, I've spent my whole life not talking about whatever thing this is and what the wound is. And I don't even know what the wound is to be able to call it out or talk about it. So what kind of codependence is that? And somebody choosing different or better, it doesn't mean my mom or dad have to change. It just means we got to be able to have a conversation.
But let's
There's
just
something wrong
talk.
here.
Let's just be vulnerable.
Not, oh, I'm wounded. Oh, you feeling bad, or I'm this, or I'm that. And it just blows up into something that wasn't even true. It's like a smoke screen was just popped. So we never really got a chance to heal anything.
No. My sister is having a Mother's Day thing at her new place.
Mhm.
So it would just be like my parents, but then it would be my brother-in-law and then his entire family, which I don't like because they're very low vibrational. And to be honest, I don't think I'm gonna go.
Cool.
Is that bad?
Well, okay, so this is really important. There is no shame in choosing you. And what would the whole time be about? It would be talking about a bunch of low vibrational stuff that really didn't align with you, and you'd be prostituting yourself to sit even in that because it won't. And then you'll spend hours afterwards trying to dig out of the poop
Yes.
of sitting in that
Poop.
lower vibration of talking about what the weather is and what the government is and what Trump or Biden or what.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Like
is
I
that
just
bad?
yeah, no, it's not. It's just I'm at the space of just like I don't even want to play along with this whatever this is. Like I don't want to play. I don't want to be a character.
I'm going to ask you a hard question.
Yeah.
Can you truly be yourself staying with your parents?
No, not truly, because they'll reject aspects of me or criticize aspects of me.
Yeah. And could I really fly with those expectations? I had to look inside my system at all the hooks that were in me as part of family
Mm-hmm.
of here's how you talk, here's what we don't talk about, here's what we do. And I just blew them all away and I gave them all back. Just this tackling harness of here's a pile. Here you go, mom. Here's the hooks that we had on each other. I'm
Yeah.
freeing you. You're freeing me, whether you like it or not. And I'm moving forward. And
Wow.
that can be terrifying. I don't know how much of my energy is in my mom and how much she's used that to cope or whatever. But I would far prefer that she's in a place where she can be fully herself right now without me having to be anything to her. And I think that distance and that silence is going to be required to heal.
Yes. Absolutely.
So did I do something bad to her? Some people would say, oh, she's crying all the time or whatever. Well, no, maybe she's getting this chance to look what's important to her and why I don't have to be a certain thing to make her feel that. And
Yeah.
I've got my own. I've got lots of wounds. Like my parents, they used to always make promises to my kids. They'd say, oh, we're coming down for the weekend. We'll stay 3 days. And then at the last minute, they'd cancel. And my kids would be
Oh.
like, oh, you're not going to my soccer tournament now, grandma. You're not going to this or whatever. And there's all these wounds that are there. And then sometimes they'd come and they'd stay a day. And it'd be like they promised 3. And it's like, well, why are you leaving? It's like, oh, dad's not feeling good. Or there was always some excuse that they'd use. And I really opened it up. I haven't felt I have had parents sometimes like, yeah, you make time to have a barbecue or whatever. But when you say those things to my kids and you get
Yeah.
them all excited, and then I called them on it, and then they were like, no, we weren't like that or whatever. That's part of life. And yeah, we were not feeling good. There's no, well, 10 years, that happened 15, 20 times. I always gave them the benefit of the doubt. My son called it out. He says, Dad, you have told me to not this many times and don't chase it. He says, I'm writing a letter to my grandparents that says what I really believe.
Wow.
And they heard it, but then roundabout when they responded to me, they said, oh, you turned your grandsons against us. And it's like,
No, you didn't.
I would love for you to sit across from my grandsons, see the hurt in their eyes, the number of tears that I had to deal with, and the trust they don't have because something happened. And I take full responsibility. I didn't make them comfortable all the time. I was going through a divorce. There was energies going on. If you had said that, it would have been a completely different thing. But you didn't. You just disappointed them.
Yeah.
And that will stick with them in their perspective of grandparents for the rest of their life, for whatever reason that was, which we don't even know.
I
And
think that's
I'm
good.
okay
He
with
wrote a
that.
letter.
Yeah. So I love my parents. There's just stuff that's unsaid.
Of
My
course.
dad's had wounds too, and maybe I'm not allowed to talk to his experience, but his dad died a week before my mom and my mom and him were married. That's
Oh,
a pretty
wow.
big wound. And to go into that,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be conceived in that, that's a pretty big wound, right? That takes months, years to recover from that. And then my grandma, which is his mom, died a year and a half ago. So
Oh.
he's now handling the whole family, but we've never had a chance to talk about any of that or hear how that feels or any of that stuff. I feel this silent load and it crushes him sometimes, but we don't talk about that stuff. And it makes me so sad. I love them deeply. I'd love to have a long conversation about those things and let that all be off the plate so that it's not carried around quietly in the background. But that's the family codependence. We don't talk about those things. We let everybody suffer in silence or whatever. And I'm the divine rebel. I'm asking for more, not to hurt them. It's to open the wound, get us to
Mm-hmm.
see it, speak of it, get it in the light so that I think you're really talking about you're terrified that my mom's going to die because she's going to get sick and because you're your only lovers and the only people in the world. That's got to be massively, hugely scary.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk to that, but I won't talk with a whole bunch of projection that I'm going to kill my mother. I'll talk about the fear of
Yes. The root.
the root. But that's too hard. It would be too direct or whatever. No, I'm fucking direct. I'm okay with direct. I'll talk it all day long.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you write them a letter as well?
It needs time.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I'd even sit with them if I knew we could have a clear conversation. I've tried it many times before. The freedom I got right here and right now is I let that codependence go,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm completely and totally clear and sovereign for myself. And it feels really weird because there's not a lot of safety and structure and all that kind of stuff. I'm stepping out of that codependence, which made people feel safe, but I'm just like, I'm gonna vomit if I continue there. And I gave
You
him back all
can't.
that's theirs, and I'm completely free. There's no like, I owe my mom and dad, or I'm trying to be a good son, or any of that shit was all part of the codependence. I'm just me.
Even if you
At all.
wanted to, you just couldn't. Like, it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube. Like, you just can't. You already know what you know, and you can't regress back to that former version of you. That would just be death.
Exactly. So the conversation can't be had that you got to change, or you got to stop doing this, or you got to stop doing that. The conversation is, okay, why are we doing it this way? What's underneath it? Why do we keep saying this over and over and over again? And why does people cry? And why does all this? Nobody won by not. All those things need to be expressed and cleared. So, but when you're deep neck into it and your energy is all tied to it, nobody can heal. So really the distance now will
Mhm.
create a healing space.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And I can't rush in to do mediation and have a big conversation or whatever. It has, the wound has to
Calm, yeah.
bubble, and
Yeah.
I'll be clear with it. It won't trigger me anymore. My brother calling me and stuff, I had to separate from him. He was telling me all these things because they weren't okay according to him, and that's the way I heard it. But really, I'm still getting okay with it myself. But it's completely against everything I've ever been taught or societally is acceptable. It's a big step, and I honor that, and I'm learning from that.
Yeah. Are you just gonna go cold turkey from everyone, including like sisters?
They chose it the way that I was projected upon. I am completely and totally okay. Well, my sister and I haven't had a great relationship for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
because she's got a narcissistic husband and there's a lot of projection.
Mm,
Um, some of this stuff with my parents, I guess, needed to come to the head. I'm, yeah, it's weird. There's not a sadness. It's just like, this is the thing I have to do for us all to heal. And
yes,
somebody has
yes.
to do it. And I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm not going to stop talking about it. I'm going to fucking shine into it and say, this is the thing that will give us all a chance. It'll heal me. That's all
Mm-hmm.
I can ever deal with. And if they want to come along as that resolves in me by me being free from it, they're welcome to. But I
It's
can't get an outcome in any way, shape, or form. There's no choice I have in that, other than how I see it. They will be okay or not okay with what I did or what I said, or the fact that I didn't say anything or didn't respond. That's theirs.
yeah. The Matrix be coming in strong in the month of May.
Well, and could you really move forward without this perspective and this awareness?
You know?
Let's talk a little bit about yours. Are you okay to speak about it?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Because that's another dynamic of all this that's really important, but different again.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I have like with the Matrix coming in, like I have like things that have come up, like having to like I paid my taxes and then the tax lady kind of fucked me over. And she didn't do it on purpose, but she forgot to check. I told her to use my New York address to avoid complications. She didn't listen to me and she didn't check one of the boxes. And so now I have like the New York people coming after me, which might compromise some things. I'm fine with that now. But like now I'd owe extra money. But like in the past, I got money, but now I owe money back. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
really pissed at that. And I'm just like, I'm never using this. And this tax lady is from my dad. So I'm closing that portal. So I had to, dealing with that anxiousness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got called in for jury duty, and I'm probably just not gonna go.
Well, how did they find you in California if you've been a New York resident up until now?
I
That's
don't
crazy.
know, like how they all find me.
Well, but look at the 3D density, like of taxes. Doesn't it just make you want to vomit?
Gosh, yeah, and it's like, oh my god, I have to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a letter. It was like from the IRS, but it was from the White House, and it was from Biden. saying how, oh, well, you should have gotten your $1,400 stimulus check now. And with the vaccination, they kept talking about vaccinations in this letter. I can pull it if you want to, but it
No
was
worries.
so creepy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it and probably frame it, but it was just talking about, like, now that you got your stimulus check, like, and people are getting more and more vaccinated, hopefully we're in the right direction, blah 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 blah. And I was like, this shit is insane. This is
Mhm.
hush money, is
Mhm.
what this is, really. And then
Mhm.
it's like, why are you giving this to me if I have to give it back to you for this stupid tax? It makes no sense to me.
Not
That's
at
why I
all.
didn't even want to file taxes. But if I don't file taxes, then I'm gonna have to deal with the hurricane of my father.
Yeah. Oh, my son was hard set against not filing his taxes, and I
Yeah.
followed through, and he got $400 back. He was so happy,
Nice.
but that's the way it can be, right?
Yeah. So yeah, dealing with like the very dense 3D stuff of the courts and the
Yeah.
tax system and the monies, whatever. But and just, I guess, to jump on the listening, that's what I
Yeah.
learned
Keep going.
today.
Yeah.
Woo, I have some listening to do, some listening skills to acquire.
Mhm.
Went to had a my therapy session because I've been kind of struggling with some challenges and figuring out what did I do wrong, like in certain situations.
Mhm.
And we
Very good.
got to the root of it. I was just like telling her everything that's happened.
Mhm.
Um, and it's pretty much like releasing. When I'm a creative channeler, so when I go into a project, I will be flooded with information, whether I like it or not. Like, I
Mhm.
have just channels and like messages, pop, 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 pop.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like I'll act upon. It's been hard for me to ground. So
Mhm.
she gave me some technique. She instilled some affirmations to ground myself.
Mhm.
And I was shaming and judging myself for acting upon these channel messages, for being exuberant when I'm in that flow state, or just being a firework and
Mhm.
super loud with it, or like goofy or ADHD with it. Because
Mhm.
I've struggled a lot with ADHD and like being very talkative.
Mhm.
And
Can you do 9 things at the same time? And most people are just like, "What the fuck did you
yeah,
just do?" Yeah,
I
but
don't
that's
know.
the energy of who we are.
Yeah, and she helps me see that, just to say yes to all of those parts of me.
Mhm.
And the affirmation also was like, you are a creative fountain who also listens. And the trouble I've had that goes with this guilt is that I wouldn't listen or ask how the other person is doing, or how I can help the other person, or what they need.
So what did you lose out on by not listening? You feel.
Opportunities,
Mhm. Awareness.
awareness.
And did it
um
create a lot of confusion and
yes,
misunderstandings,
absolutely,
which
yes.
hurt you and
Which
caused
hurt.
you a lot of discomfort, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But I'm still learning this, but I just don't know how to listen and comprehend what's being said on the other side. It's like a short wire circuit. So like I
So
could hear it, but it doesn't go through.
okay, but is it a grounding issue for you? Are you fully in your body when you don't listen
I'm not in my body.
at all?
Yeah.
And that's part of being pixie energy too. So it's something you might struggle with
Yeah.
a little more often than most.
Yeah.
So that it, but you're gonna have to really ground yourself. Take a deep breath and hear.
Yes. And I think a lot of it has to do with my dad's dynamic.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and it's really hard to learn to listen with a family. It's not really talking about the truth. So really listening is just like numbing your mind to the old story.
yeah, and like, you're just being criticized half the, or you're feeling like you're being criticized. They might not be intentionally trying to hurt you, but like you're feeling that way. So you're like,
Judgment.
I'm not gonna listen.
So on this exact same thing, if you shone your full light into your family from the moment you were born, could they have even existed? you would have shattered it. So how many things, now go back and collect the things that shrank you. I know my dad screaming at me about eating my vegetables shrank me to this small for the entire youth of my childhood. And I can see that as a gift, or I can see that as the most massive trauma a small
Yeah.
boy could receive. It's
Yeah.
pretty scary.
Yeah.
So we got all
Lessons.
these things hooked onto us that we're now unhooking from the
Yes.
truck. And how big is the parental one? It's probably
Oh my
80% of your
God.
holdback.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So some of those things that you're judging yourself for or whatever were forced to be because you couldn't be your full life.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that change everything? They were doing what was in their best interest to calm you down enough that they didn't explode into pieces because you would have made them do all their work all at once.
Yeah.
Like,
What is this game? This is such nonsense.
yeah. So they were literally protecting themselves by shrinking you.
Yes. Yes.
You
Which
don't
is
need that
by
protection
design.
anymore.
Yes.
So what can be gained from listening now? You said you want to be that. So what's the positives now? It's a gift to you.
Being able to be more of service genuinely from the heart and not from the ego mind.
Mm-hmm. What about presence and holding space?
Presence and holding space. Yes.
That's honoring. Like I know you noticed before, I got a text message and I had to respond to it, and I knew you'd felt the energy change because you'd be looking over, and I'm like,
I know.
get it done quick, because that's the difference when the space isn't held and the presence isn't there, and we feel it because you don't feel listened to if I'm not being present for you, and probably vice versa.
Yeah.
And then it's
Absolutely.
like, am I wasting my time? My son's that way all the time. He's like, would you stop drinking that or writing that note down or whatever? It's like, you're not listening to me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm hearing you, but am I truly taking it into my heart and
Ooh,
percolating it? It might be not different.
I'm hearing you, but am I listening? Ooh.
Well, am I accepting it? Am I allowing it into my heart? Is my heart even present in that
Yeah.
moment?
And that is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I went to a networking event. I mean, I didn't go anywhere. I just went online. But I was talking it was like global, and I was talking to someone that was back on the East Coast, and he was saying how him going out felt so, cuz everything's opening up on this side. It
Mhm.
felt so weird to him because he's been in monk mode, but it just feels like overstimulation now. Which in the past pre-COVID we're used to it, but now having this gap of silence and like immersing ourselves back into the wild, like
Mhm.
just you see the overstimulation, like it's
Mhm.
so much more amplified.
Can you even imagine going back into the mix without the underlying lies being admitted yet? Because
No.
there's no why. It's like, oh, the vaccine's making it okay. There's no truth yet, other than, but they say you can't even take the vaccine and not wear 2, 3 masks and cover your ass. I don't know.
It just makes no sense, and like everything has just been rushed open.
Yep.
Like all of a sudden, okay, it's cool. No, the variant's in India. No, it's not here yet. So we're cool. We can open this. And, the businesses are behaving themselves. So we'll give you back some money to support yourselves and your families and the community. But probably come September, this shit is going to be swept under the rug again.
And then they're going to be in lockdown again, or
I hope not, but I could see it.
Mhm.
I could definitely see it.
Well, it's way worse in Canada. If anything, they're locking down even more. All the schools are closed, and there's these new huge level of measures that are happening on Friday because we're all bad
Fucking
and we're all not
insane.
doing stuff, and you can't even see your mother or go into the park, and
That's nuts.
so whatever the thing is that shifts the awareness. Um, we'll go back to this because I want to complete on listening, because I want to hold that space. There's another thing about government and the illusion of all the control and banking that I listened to yesterday that needs to be shared.
No. I'm. It's a wrap on my end. Let's go. I want to hear this banking. This
Okay. Okay. Well, basically, it all starts with this: we are told we need to put our money in a bank account so that we
Yes.
have, but we're actually giving the bank an unsecured loan with no terms.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have to pay us interest. They actually charge us for taking our money so that they can lend it out to other people now with bank account fees and all this kind of stuff. So there's the first level of prostitution because we've
Mm-hmm.
given them our money and the expectation. And I guess there's a whole bunch of places where they're holding back money and making new rules so that they don't have, because they're not liquid with cash anymore. They're not making all their money anymore. So that's the first thing. And then for you to get money, it's this lie because it's the carrot and the stick, right? It's like, okay, you're the donkey and this carrot is hanging here like this, and you're walking all day long waiting to get the carrot. And then eventually you get the carrot and you get conditioned that at the end of the day, you get a carrot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, every 2 weeks you get a paycheck or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to put it in the bank account right away, which
Yeah.
is giving an unsecured loan to the bank, and they can charge your fees. And now all of a sudden, some business charges you for your cell phone and charges you for your gas and your water and your car and your insurance and your blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, that bank is lending out 100-fold for every dollar that you give, making tons of interest off it. We're not getting 1 cent of them literally making huge trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars by relending this money and then trapping us under debt when our own money has funded the debt that's really enslaving us, because now you got to pay it. A mortgage agreement is mort, which is death, and gage is contract. I can't remember it's in Latin or one of the
French.
core languages. Yeah. And so basically we're in a death contract for life. And guess what? If you miss one payment or don't meet their terms, they set terms on you. You don't set terms on them of how they should give you interest and it should be repaid on this regular date. But they set those, and then they can steal the house from you if you're in bad times or whatever, and you don't make
Yeah.
5 payments or whatever. You could be $1 from paying off that house, and they legally can take the entire thing from you.
It's never yours.
Well, that's the illusion of everything. Everything is as we're in this money where they've created the money, they've created the jobs, they've created all these things, even the laws, the judges, they actually said this guy was talking in England, a solicitor is a lawyer's name in England. Well, a solicitor makes them a prostitute, because to solicit someone for sex or solicit someone to make money or solicit, it makes you, in definition of the law, a prostitute. So all lawyers are prostitutes under their own laws, which just made me hilarious. But they don't deal in the truth. They deal in mixing of words, because Oxford English and all the different kinds of English all mean different things in law, because it's been used to take from people. And you don't even have to be dependent to that law. We just accept it. It's part of being a good person in the government of Canada. You follow the RCMP. But if you choose to say, I do not understand you, which means stand beneath you, that you have power over them. If you will not tell a police officer that you do not understand, you think that they're trying to say, do you understand what I've just told you? But no, you're giving them the power to touch your body, to put you in handcuffs, to put these laws against you. And if you don't agree, you say, I comprehend or whatever, they cannot proceed. Because they really, truly have no laws. It'll make them really angry, and a cop that's not standard will think you're being obstinate or whatever, and their anger and their triggers may come out, and they may try and coerce you. But legally, if you don't agree or understand what they've said or your Miranda rights or any of that kind of stuff, it gives them no power over you, because we're sovereign.
So could they throw you in jail because you don't?
They couldn't physically touch you. They couldn't physically give you a fine. They couldn't physically even ask you for your identification if you don't identify with that. That's what this free man on the land and these sovereignty movements are all starting to be, is it's people saying, I don't recognize you have a power over me. Just because you go and take a course and put a badge on your chest and are supposedly supporting government, and we're now all wondering if government's really supporting us or supporting corporations, you will also find out that we are under maritime law. We are not part of a landed law. So there's all this shit. Your birth certificate, you are bought and sold from the moment you're born. if you look on the back of your birth certificate, in Canada at least, there's a little stamp number, which is the lot that was bought and sold of you. And they actually, I don't want to get too conspiracy theory or whatever, but they bet and have games on whether or not you'll get ahead, and they make money off of the groups that they bought. That's why our birth certificate usually has our name in capital letters, or all first letters are capital, because it's the corporation of you that can be bought and sold, not the person you. So you go into an agreement
Wow.
without your agreement. So the sovereignty principles that we're all talking about, to prove that you were born, you have to get that live certificate of birth, which is that like carbon copy piece of paper that the hospital uses. That's the evidence that says you're a sovereign being under God. Everything else after that, once it becomes a birth certificate and once it's all been processed, then you've been made into a corporation. You are bought into a lie from that day forward that you're held under these laws. You're held under the laws say you got to drive the speed limit, you got to have insurance in your car, and
Taxes.
the system breaks down when you don't have insurance. Well, I know you can't get registration, or you can't renew your license, or you can't, because it's their system that says you can't, you're not allowed to drive a car. Did you have to take a course? No, you had to pay the tax of getting insurance, getting a registration done, having a driver's license. Those are all that get more taxes for higher up.
Yeah, I was thinking about how this is just a rich man's game. Like even this pandemic COVID thing, it's just a continuation from where daddy left off. And so now the next generation of blue blood is just continuing on playing this game. And let's make this one interesting and see how people
Well, they were playing for table stakes. Everybody had a FEMA camp cell that they were going to be in, or either unless they did their job. And if you don't get vaccinated and we can't track you or whatever, you can't get food now or whatever, so that there was some level of control over all these levels of control.
Yeah, like just the next level.
So,
oh my God.
But who does it serve? It doesn't serve the consciousness of the human being. It serves this darkness of this wound of a child that needs to have power over people by taking it. Why wouldn't it be that much better to say, I'm the king of the castle and everybody was free and they're co-creating and things were amazing? The castle is 9 million feet taller than the little short castle here because he didn't think so big, or his dad was always there. Look at the places like the churches and stuff like that had all the control because they had all the lies and all the dirty stuff underneath. So really they chose what laws went through or who got executed or whatever, because I'm going to tell that you slept with your brother and that's not good under the church. That's homo, whatever. That's how much control happened in the past, right? You get the dirty work. And most of the people that the leaders in our government they all have blackmail against them. They have dirty things. Oh, you did this illegal thing way back then. You're going to lose your position. So if you don't do exactly what I say, I'm going to expose that.
Yeah.
Or I'll come somebody and I'll hang you from a doorknob or whatever. And
Make
whatever,
it look like an accident.
To commit suicide.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the Cantillon effect?
I do not. I am not.
I when you have a chance, look at the Cantillon effect.
I've heard of cancel culture, but that sounds different.
Cantillon.
Yeah. Oh, Cantillon, not cancel.
Not cancel. Cantillon.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's pretty much under the premise, if I'm not mistaken, like talking about money supply and how the central bank prints money under certain situations, but they try to create those situations so they print more money, which causes more inflation, and the
values you and takes your money out from under you.
Yeah, and so the people that are friends with these central bankers, the politicians, the business owners that are high up there, they'll get a slice of this wealth, but it won't be distributed across the way. So the average Joe, by the time it comes to him, he'll get nothing. And so it creates
that's how you devalue currency and
Yes.
you shift things. what happened in the US? They took all the gold back in the 30s or something, and it was illegal to hold gold because they
Mm.
wanted to get the gold backing back, or they wanted to maintain it, and then they lost it, and then the paper didn't equal the gold anymore. Same
Yeah.
idea.
So it just creates this like massive wealth, like,
Stock to a few people
yeah.
that can manipulate.
Yeah, and I was like, this is how wealth is. This is how wealth is. This is the definition of wealth, where there's literally a few people that own a majority of the money, and
Yep.
then that's the only way it works.
Yeah. Well, what do you do with $43 trillion, 30 zeros after it? Like, can you possibly spend that? Is there anything
Oh,
that you own the whole planet all to keep people in slavery is what it was. So you don't have those things. You're in unhappiness, you're in struggle, you're in sadness, can you imagine how many people are like in just complete fight or flight right now because they don't have enough cash to pay the next rent payment, and they have 3 kids, then they got to decide whether or not they pay food or they whatever. Who has the right to instill that level of fear and control on a person? Because that's what they'd want for all of us. It's like you're just living hand to mouth. A lot of COVID has destroyed the middle class, all the business
yes.
owners and stuff. Those were the people that stood up for rights and felt that they had some possibility. If you're in a blue collar job loading a truck all day long, you're really not feeling like you're adding to society. But somebody that's doing a restaurant chain and all this kind of stuff, now it's all been decimated because you got to pay your rent whether or not COVID's on or not, because some
Yeah.
asshole is more worthy of getting paid than you are. No, let's all take a rent holiday right now because I can't open my business. Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's
And
insanity.
and the governors are still getting paid, mind you. The government workers, governors, mayors, etc., they're still collecting their checks.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And they're sending people home in these waves, and now you got to work from home. How much has the ability to do work? If you're sitting at home all day doing work, you're going to get interrupted 19,000 times a day. The efficiency of people is all destroyed, etc.
Yeah, or with my mom, for instance, she doesn't know when to stop.
Oh, so
Like,
she's working more.
she's working more.
Yeah, that's probably possible.
And that is, I think, not very good for your mental well being.
But you don't know any better. You can't gauge yourself against other people's effort. So
Right.
bosses can very easily now make you feel like you haven't done good enough.
Inadequate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you want to be that kind of boss? Do you want to sit in that kind of stuff? But that's how you get ahead. That's how you make more money. That's how you, whatever. Have you ever seen this things where it's like these bosses go undercover in their own organizations? It's like the CEO and he goes to be a janitor in the, oh, you got to watch that. It's like Undercover Boss, I think it is. There was one where it was like the boss of the stadium, and there was like a bathroom with 19 stalls that needed to be cleaned, and there was less than 1 minute per stall to be cleaned. Like I'm talking like toilets and your scrub brush and a sprayer, and you had 19 minutes to do 19 stalls. And the guy's just like, I got barely 3 done because he didn't know the efficiency of whatever. But can you
Yeah.
imagine how many employees went through this, couldn't hack it, or got burned out completely because some stupid idiot decided that 1 minute was possible? And really, you took the best of the best, proving that this was possible, and then you tried to gauge everybody by it. And did you get
Yeah.
a really good clean urinal or any of that kind of stuff if it
No.
was 1 minute? Probably not.
Definitely. Definitely not. Yeah.
So the more you get awakened, you start to see the more insanity in almost the illusion in everything we do.
Yep.
Simple things like car insurance, for example, it makes you completely responsible for irresponsible for your actions. And you can lie and cheat and do all this kind of stuff. The insurance broker auditors or whatever, you got to have a camera in your car now because that's the only truth that can be real, because way easier to say, I didn't do that, or like the rise and fall of integrity, of honesty, of, oh, I got fucked out of all my money in my bank account, or the stock market fell out from under, my retirement savings is gone, and now it's completely okay that you're going to screw a bunch of people to make it back. And nobody that really caused it really got fined or chased or
Oh,
responsible.
yeah. I pay Around $250 each month for healthcare.
Yeah. Well, in Canada, we don't pay that, but yeah, that's money right out of your mouth.
I have not I have I am grateful to be healthy enough to not have ever gone any of those times that this whatever how long it's been, but I still
So
pay and it
since you've
makes
been
no
starting
sense.
to pay, how many dollars? That's tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket on the off chance you might die or get hurt or have an accident.
Yes.
That's literally fucking scary.
Yes.
In Canada, we have universal health care, but I may wait a year for my cancer surgery because there's only so many beds and so many doctors, and it's even worse in COVID. So should I have kept that $10,000 and saved it for that one time that I needed it and not paid healthcare? It's like, no, the world says you got to do that because that's your insurance. Or accidental disability, or it's not there. You can get those insurance policies. If you get hit by a car, it'll pay your wages if you get hit by a car, but it's all like on the chance. Energetically creating is all fucked up because the chance you're going to actually create that because your mind's on it all the time, exhausting.
Yeah.
So look at the treadmill we're on. We started with family. We started
Yeah.
with all these other things. You're even saying, okay, you got your money for stimulus and stuff like that. In Canada, thank God we've got it, but you get $900 every 2 weeks if your business has been more than $50 or 50% affected by COVID. Well, last month I didn't even get a single phone call, no matter what I tried or whatever, nobody phoned. But in God's work, I know I was working my ass off energetically, dealing with all this energy that's showing up. So I was meant to do that, and money showed up. I don't know how, and that those dollars that help. But in Canada, that's thank God, because I would have been bankrupt a while ago if I hadn't got that makeup money. In the
Wow.
US, you've been struggling for $1,400 once, right?
We
Crazy.
we got a 1400,
Is there one before that?
we had a 600, and then we had when the pandemic first hit a 1200.
Okay. So that's what, 3 grand or a little over?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're sitting looking at a world that's an illusion. We just talked about banking and how all that stuff is all codependent and weird, and really, if you would have charged the same amount of interest that they charge on your credit cards, you wouldn't even have to live to pay if you put all your savings in a bank account. If you got that level of interest, if you're getting 19% interest like a credit card gets, instead of you putting the money in and then using a credit card to pay, you wouldn't have to work nearly as hard. But nobody ever said that we are giving a loan to the bank. The bank just expects it, and they can do with it as they please. And even the amount that's insured is something like $120,000. It depends where you are or whatever. But and then if it's insured, it's by your government, so your taxpayers pay it if the bank fails. So the bank has no responsibility or liability in any of this.
Yeah. No, bank goes scot free.
So how did this all come in under our nose without anybody ever mentioning it? I remember when I was growing up, I was getting 4%, 5% interest in my bank account. And then just over time, it was like 0.5% down, 0.5% down. Now it's like zero, unless you
Yeah.
have over 5 grand or something in there.
Interesting.
Insanity.
Yeah, I mean, like the only thing left to do is just put that stimulus money into the fucking stock market.
And that's exactly what they want to do because the stock market is artificially overinflated. So all that money will just go back to the fuckers that fucked us in the first place. Excuse my French. And I have no shame or guilt in doing that until we shine some light, because that's what we're here to do. Shine some light on it and say, okay, there's something wrong here. And when people start seeing there's something wrong and it's all going to hit the fan in very clear force, because those structures are falling apart. The reason we're having to break down the family dynamics, the reason we're having to break all this stuff is falling apart. It's just not at the pace that we want or as quickly as we'd love.
Yeah.
But it's got to, because it's hurting people. It's literally disintegrating itself. The corruption was so strong, it crushed everything, including itself.
Mm-hmm.
and it's all falling apart to dust because look at these morons that are walking around. They can't even talk, and they can't even speak about anything in the world, and they're supposedly our leaders, and they're falling apart because the controls there, but nobody's really pulling any strings anymore because it's all falling apart. And the darkness had to give up because they'd won so badly that they had to give up. There was no choice, and to go to that level of darkness would have just destroyed the world. So now we're growing this 5D timeline off the side, and the people that want to stay firmly implanted in the 3D and the old ways and the family old ways, there'll be a place for them.
Yeah.
I watched this movie about the rapture yesterday. It was called Left Behind. It got Nicolas
gosh.
Cage in it and shit. And all the kids and a certain number of people just disappeared with their clothes just fell apart in the person's hand that was hugging them. And like millions and millions and millions of people just disappeared. I call it to a 5D dimension.
Yeah.
Nobody could see them anymore. They existed in that time and space, but it was a version of everything that had a better outcome.
I mean, that's kind of like, when you have friends or, past coworkers, past lovers that you were once, vibrating on the same level, but now you guys don't. Now you don't see each other.
Literally, sometimes you can't even see them at the park or whatever because your vibration or your movement has moved, so they don't even perceived in your reality.
Yeah.
So what if we're not waiting for quantum financial, we're not waiting for Jasara and all this kind of stuff, we're choosing it in our vibration to say, I fully and completely step into this. Maybe you have to find out family dynamic go. Maybe you need to let all those anchors that are around your neck. I choose to step fully into my 5D awareness. I'm feeling so much lighter now. And we're going to create that new reality. It has these new textures on sexuality. It has these new textures on money and how family works and listening and all these things because we couldn't go back and repair all the damage that's been done. We got to start from a place that's above that.
Yep.
Because if we stuck with the same laws and the same rules and the same taxation systems and banks and all this kind of stuff, the corruption's built into it. So you'd never clean it out. We just start fresh. Here was the old, and now we're starting here. And it starts in our mind and what our expectations are and how the world works. So all the people that are feeling like outcasts and weird from their family and all this kind of stuff, choose that you came here to heal this vibration and this reality, and to step above is giving that family an opportunity to step up when their time is ready and they've dealt with their shit.
Yep.
And I will gladly reach that hand out. I will gladly see the smile on their face to see that I've been grounding in 5D reality all this time when everybody else is puking on the floor and getting vaccinated and doing all these things that are needed to fit into 3D reality, because somebody had to choose different. And we're choosing different. It doesn't make me better or that I'm higher than you or whatever. I came here to be 5D reality, whether you like it or not. And everybody else gets a choice. I didn't have a choice. Well, I had a choice because I could have given up or killed myself along the way, but I came here as a challenge to me to go through all this bullshit and to be able to speak from it so that people could have a ladder to climb up and say, I'm getting out of this, and it may be the same way I did or a way they chose different, but at least they know with a different perspective that there's another possibility because of me and you and people that talk about it. The ones that hide their head in the sand don't believe there's another possibility or that it could get better or that the world's fucked. They believe we came here to give that. Here's the lifeboat of 5D and my hand's hanging down. I hope you can see it because I'm staying at that density and I'm dealing with all this shit so that that hand stays material and they're not like reaching for thin air, because I had to reach for thin air. I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't fun.
I don't know what it was. I honestly, when it first happened, I thought I was literally going insane. I wanted to jump off the bridge. I was like, I think this is the time when I had no comprehension of what this was.
I agree. But that's what it is. You are so far out of the reality and the success and the okayness of 3D. Nobody, you're like, what the fuck is wrong with her? Like, she is so strange. She is so weird. You're not. You weren't. You chose from I was judged as too open-hearted, too light, too
Mm-hmm.
soft, too whatever from the
Mm-hmm.
moment I was born. And I thought that there was something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
But look at everybody calmed onto me and shrank me and fought me down and made me so that they had a piece of me so that they didn't feel left out or they hung on for dear life. And now you're just shedding them all. You're saying, no, price of this is you to do your work. You can be sitting here right beside me if you do your work, and I'll talk you through it all day long. I'll witness you. I'll have compassion for you, but I'm not going to fix you, help you, carry you, or whatever. The hand is going to be
Yeah.
there, and when you're ready on terms of 5-dimensionality, I'll pull you up.
Yes. They'll pull themselves up.
Well, I'll give you a hand so that it's not
Yeah.
as hard. But yeah, you
Yeah.
can climb right on the boat whenever you want. You just might do it all by yourself. But we came here to make those steps easier for people. We did the
Yes.
work inside. And for me not to talk about it, me not to talk about my experience and all that kind of stuff, leaves so many that could not, that see themselves as bad because of that programming. And they're stuck in the family dynamic of this is okay, or to hide this rape or this incest in our family or whatever. And if it's not talked about, it just stays as a fermenting wound. And I won't stand for it anymore. And that's how much my love is. Some people may say I'm being hard on my family or I'm expecting too much from them. No, that's love. It's like I'm standing here and I'm speaking my truth. And I had to respond to my mom. I said, I love you very much, but I'm for once choosing to love me and my family more.
Ooh.
And I won't sit with that anymore. And you can't make comments like that. And you can't say that it's falling apart and make me feel like I've caused something when you caused it yourself right from the very beginning by not talking about those things, by pretending it's not there or trying to sweep it under the rug. No fucking way. Never
What
again.
did she say?
It was really nice. It didn't have all of that. It just said this, I'm choosing ourselves from this. And she may or may not understand. That's her choice.
But
And I
did
love
she
her.
respond to that?
No.
Or, okay.
Well, it took well over a day to respond to my son's response and all this kind of stuff. And she read a whole bunch of stuff in between the lines and gives me this short note or whatever of what she felt in it. And it to me, it's like there's something wrong with you, and I don't feel comfortable having you in the family, or you've already stepped away, unless we can come to terms with this through a counselor or whatever. We have no relationship anymore. And if that's the way she wants to phrase it in a roundabout way or whatever, it's like, okay, I don't want to talk to that if we can't have the truth. So when you're ready to talk and you're ready to understand what's underneath it, I'll sit down with you. I don't need a mediator or a counselor or whatever, because I'm really clear on what mine is. And I speak about my feelings and my emotions and what this felt like, but they just interpret it and then take it in some other form.
Yep.
It's about them.
Yep.
And then they don't say what the thing is about them. And we never make any progress.
Well, it's just they think it's an attack on them and they go into defense mode and use the weapons they know to protect.
That's what shining light is. That's what a catalyst is to shine the truth. And if it feels uncomfortable and people want to snap and pop, the truth was stated. Thank you. Not at your loss, not at my loss, at both of our gains. And if everybody's going through this, or anybody is, just stand your ground.
Yeah.
And loving yourself will always, always, always pan out.
Yes.
I've got another one that was going on. I don't want to take too much more time, but a client of mine using Office 365 lost their last 6 years of email due to this change that I got help with from a Microsoft person. And all of a sudden the email is disappearing. It just started happening. The last change we made was months ago, but all of a sudden now they can't find any email past a year. So we're on the line with the Microsoft guy, and it's like, oh yeah, the product changed and we don't have access to recover any of that email after 30 days. So you're probably screwed and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, you're paying thousands of dollars a month for this product that has this hole in it that nobody's talking about. And the guy said, yeah, they took away our ability to recover this. So you're kind of on your own now. And he's saying all these things that they've changed the product to save money and we don't turn archiving on and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, that's the essence of a business. And you're going to this world leader in delivering this service and you're expecting a level of service, but the rules and conditions change whenever they feel like it. And if you went to the lower costing one where the thing says it's exactly the same, all of a sudden it's not exactly the same, but they don't say, oh, by the way, your email is not backed up. Oh, by the way, after 30 days, any deleted items are lost forever. Even in the expensive one, it's not even on unless you turn on something called litigation hold.
Jesus.
So it's like this world leader in software has these massive holes so that they can save money on data storage.
Yeah, because he's a massive hole.
Well, the man has his own integrity violations or whatever, but it just showed me. But the old me was like, I'm responsible for that product because I set them up on it and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, no, that's an entity of itself. That product has become massively complex and it's got all these little things that change in the background. If I chose to be responsible, I'd die. It's like, oh, now I'm responsible for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of their email being lost because I followed the instructions of a Microsoft employee and it didn't work. It may even be a bug for all I know, but all I know is we were trying to change the deleted items storage period to be 30 days instead of 15. And that's what we thought we did, but it actually changed it, said all email before 1 year before is now deleted. Who would build that feature anyways in a business? But I guess there's a use for it, but it saves Microsoft space. But you get a 50 gig email box. None of these people were even 50 gigs. It was just the lack of integrity that's underneath and the unstated and the other stuff just horrifies me now because everybody's held responsible for mistakes that couldn't even possibly be theirs. And can you imagine IT? It's like, okay, your hard drive crashes in your computer. Is that your IT guy's fault because he sold you the computer? Or that he didn't have a long discussion with you about backup and how backup works and how this is important? But when people get out of integrity, it's all of a sudden, it's like, you're the IT guy. And it's like, I got $100 an hour and you paid me maybe $300 a month for fixing your stuff. And now I'm responsible for $100,000 worth of loss because you didn't have time to have a discussion about backup and it's my responsibility. The responsibility you as an IT person or a technical person is huge. So now it's all about educating because an energetic person can be taking on a huge amount of responsibility that's not theirs.
Let me ask you this. Would you go back into or continue doing IT like for another corporation or an energetically aligned place or what have you?
Not in this world, in the old way. I will tell you right now, being an IT person is the strongest energy healer you've ever imagined because the person's personal issues come out through their outside reality, which is their computer, their interfaces. So my job all day long, I only realized that in the last 2 years, and I've been doing it for over 10, was to be more confident in their computer hardware than they were and convince them of such. So I'd sit there and after a while it'd be like, oh, this is the only computer I buy for my clients. And these 10 other guys have been using it with not any of these problems. But this same person that I was talking about with the email the other day, it's her energy coming out through all these flaws. She asked me to search some stuff and figure out this deleted thing. If she hadn't been paranoid about something, I wouldn't even have made the change, which wouldn't even have made the possibility.
The catalyst, yeah.
Well, but now there's this storm cloud growing, right? So IT, you're responsible for the monetary, like accounting records. You're responsible for the email, their file servers, all this kind of shit. Can you imagine how much could be projected back on you?
Yes.
In the amount of a failure?
I was probably projecting on this tax lady.
Well, and can you imagine? You know, they do automatic firmware updates and shit. Do you know how many bugs are in automatic firmware updates? They don't test that shit anymore. So 10 to 1 some issue that's interjected after you installed it and it worked perfectly before, but now it doesn't work perfectly before, I'll get screamed at all day long because this software from XYZ and I'm responsible for it. It's like, no, I made $200 on selling you the hardware and I just help you whenever, but I'm the go-between between X and Y. I'm not the representative of X and Y.
I don't
That's so
update
hard.
shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
But just imagine the energies you're representing as an
yeah.
IT person in there. I was part of Microsoft. I was part of IBM and HP and all this kind of stuff. And I felt that sometimes. And it's just like, they don't want any part of me being part of there. And I just get like smashed and I'd be learning all these lessons. It was so complicated to be an
Well,
IT person.
it sounds parallel to the sexual healing work. Like, somehow, some way, still a trigger of some sort when you're just existing, being yourself.
Well, but you're now cohabitating with another person that has a wound or your client that has a flaw in their computer equipment. And I'll go there and I'll do the same things 15
Yeah.
different ways. And then I'll eventually get through the energetic block. And whether it's lasts for
Yeah.
a year or a month is really up to them.
Yeah.
Because I can only, it's just like cleaning.
Yeah.
A sexual wound's the same thing. Remove the trauma.
Yeah.
But if they can't work on themselves up here, they're just going to go into situations that create more trauma.
Like integrate it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't even got to, there's a whole nother, we didn't even talk about, I've continued on with my sexual healing work with that woman from Monday we were talking about, and we did something deeper. And then we found out, well, we had this sexual process that happened and she went to the Mars when the orgasm started and I didn't know to hold on and I could have went with her, but it was just like, I've served, I'm complete. And she's up in cyberspace enjoying God and all this kind of shit. And I'm like, okay, we're going to close now. And it's like, you're rushing me. Like, well, my part had only always ended there. And then, so we're like, okay, we're going to talk about this. And we went through it and there's a lot of triggers and other shit. And it's like, okay, what can you do to prepare me? And then I figured out it's like, I've always felt as the man is the trigger of the orgasm, but it's actually the woman that can trigger the orgasm at the right spot. And it has nothing to do with how she stimulates the man. She's the one that's pulling the sexual energy up the chakras. And she gets to make the choice of when the avalanche occurs because she stacks the energy in a certain way. But if it's felt like my responsibility, then I'm just in this act of trying to fill the pot. I called it like I'm filling her rocket fuel so that she can shoot off. But the option that I hang on while she's going, I didn't even know I had. So the next time is going to be different. And then she got talking about healing these mother wounds and breastfeeding and all this kind of stuff. And she says, I'm never going to heal another man again. And I said, well, would you feel safe healing me? And she's like, yeah. So these are all things that I saw coming into my life before that didn't show up. And now they're showing up. So it's showing that I'm really doing the work.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of it. And it's not like I'm building this long-term attached relationship. It's so free. And she's talking about, oh, normally I'd have to kiss a man all the time and get really grounded in my body. And we talked about it, and it's like the kissing grounds you. So now I ground her before we even start, and I would with any sexual experience. And then it's like, I don't need that anymore. So now we can flow and you can get orgasmic and feeling. And it's very different because now it's not about acts and they got to go in a certain order or they got to be this way. And we're talking about energetic clocks going through throats. And that's key to getting that channels open so that we can blast off. And she recognized it. But I didn't know. I knew I could do that. But how many women feel energetic passing right through their throat as a means to getting to their higher levels? Most of them probably block off right here because they don't even say words or make sound while they're having intimacy. So we're exploring all those things and we're seeing that here's the importance of this, here's the importance of sound, here's the importance of talking about it, of moving the energy. And then it's like, I don't know how to be in those upper realms. So she said sometimes she'll have that with a man, and the man will be just like suffocating. He doesn't know how to breathe in that other realm because the energy is so strong. But she's learned in her own life to be able to do that. So it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
how are you going to teach me? How are you going to hold space? Because that's your realm. Because the women can go up into chakra 13s and plus, and men usually only get to about 6. So it's like if it's out of body, it's terrifying. And that's the crucible, that's the fire, that's the alchemy. It's like you go into that, you smash into the heavens and you burst, and then it catches you and it burns like fire. That's the rocket fuel, and it cleans off all your dross, which is all the trauma. But who does the woman know that she can hold that container in that moment?
No.
The man, I'm learning to hold that container so she can get up there in the first place. But if I don't have her container, do we both have a landing place? Probably not. So the Magdalene manuscript, which we both read and believe in very much, it ends at this point where you bring up everything to your pineal gland and then you explode into space, and the rest will be learned when you're ready. And it was just like, I was like, what the fuck? But now we're finding a person that can hold space at that level, and the rest will be revealed to us, because it could be severely damaging to your psyche to go into a container that isn't contained, and all of a sudden you're like in terror because you've just died and nobody's holding you.
Yeah.
Been there, done that, no fun when you have to do it by yourself, right? So
That's
that's an
cool.
interesting end to the sexuality thing, but
We covered so many bases.
yeah, it's beautiful. Well,
Yes.
we just got to understand that living life without pleasure and having it because you don't have a partner is your own fault. There's self-pleasure is always there,
Yeah.
but that's the thing that keeps mixing us and opening us. And to be ashamed, some of that stuff with Patrick previously, or be ashamed about masturbation or giving yourself pleasure. I'm so far past that now. It's like that's a part of my daily practice, and I have to have that. And so much of the world will make you judged for that. It's like you have to have seed retention, you have to have this, you have to have that. It's strange, you know. No, I'm not even gonna go there, but it's okay. It's okay to have pleasure. Well, people share stuff with me, and I'm just like, okay, well, how much should I share? How much should I not? But yeah, so we need to get that pulsing of our body, that milking of our energy
Seed.
regularly.
Um, you know something that I noticed jumping into my own sexuality wagon is for the first time in a very long time, like I actually feel complete within myself and I'm not seeking people. Like I'm not actively seeking. Like I'm so
Yep.
good. Like I don't have this longing. And
Longing, lack is beautiful.
I've always had it, you know. I was always like,
Mhm.
and you know, I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like I'm so stoked to be in this empowered space of like I'm not needing or thirsting after this thing. And you know, today I was taking out the trash and then this cute skater boy just walks by and says hello to me. And I was like, okay.
Mhm. Cool. But now, where does the invitation come from?
What does that mean?
So now to invite somebody into your
Uh-huh.
space to share more intimacy or
Yeah.
sexuality connection, where does it come from in your body instead now?
The heart?
Mm. And you're grounded in it. It's like, I'm okay whether I get it or not.
Yeah.
And it's not like this pull of, oh, I got to attract, or I got to dress sexy, or I got to whatever.
No.
It's like, I do not even want to go there. I've had to look really closely at some of my sexuality now, the stuff that I'm trying to pull in. And it's like, is it from need and lack, or is it from
Heart.
joining at a heart level?
Yeah, it's like from the whole space, from like that versus the lack. Like, oh, yeah.
Actually, I got to talk to you for a second after we're done.
Yeah.
We'll end the live. I'll
Okay.
reconnect. But yeah, that's a realization I've been having in my world, and it's really
Something else.
strange. It feels weird because now I asked the universe to bring me my sexuality at
Yeah.
a non-wounded level, and it's brought this connected intimacy at this really deep level, and it's not, our bodies aren't, we're 5,000 miles away,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it's meeting those needs and it's healing those things. would you even really want to do that in the physical level? It's probably better to do it by remote at those levels because it gets all the body shit out of it. That's mostly
And
programmed.
and it's giving you what you need, not what you want. It's like for your highest.
Yeah, it's not serving the wound or the pull. It's showing you that there's new depth to connected intimacy, and
Yeah.
it's not all about friction or penetration or any of that. It's about talk and depth. And like when we go through that experience, and then we'll talk for like 2 hours afterwards about
Oh
everything,
wow.
because the intimacy is there, the depth is there. You went to this level, and healing and wounding, and she brought up stuff and it poked me, and I brought up stuff and it poked her, and we got to be able to stand there and say, oh, that didn't feel very good, and why. And
And you've been wanting that. Like you've been wanting to, you know,
I dive headfirst into boiling pots of lava almost every day.
boiling pots of lava. But no, but you've been wanting to like have that kind of talk where you could talk about your trigger, the other person has the same language and can mirror and talk about their trigger, and like just, okay, like cool, we talked about it. Thank God. Like someone that speaks my language.
And after you've shared deep, connected sexual intimacy with a person, is there anything you shouldn't be able to talk about? Probably zero.
Which is funny because it's kind of been the opposite. Like,
Always been the opposite. So we're grounding into this new space and drawing in new, and there's no supposition. There's no maybe, could be, kind of, sort of, or whatever. It's all about what do you want and what's for my highest good. What does my body need?
Yeah.
And yeah. And I really think if you embody that as you walk around, it's going to be a vibration that pull the person to you. It's a magnetism of I'm ready for deep, connected, grounded sexual intimacy in the physical. And it shouldn't be whether there's COVID going on and everybody's scared or whatever. You're going to find a vibration that doesn't have any of that, and it's like, holy fuck, I'm ready, and it will be off the charts.
Yeah.
Because that's what we deserve, and why we've been holding out for so long. And you want to have it fully in the light before you play the game, or you don't need the game, is even better. Before you used to play the game.
Yes. And the game always backfired, or maybe the player backfired. I don't know, but
well, you weren't in the full light. You were in shame in certain areas, and now it's just like, I
take me as I am. This is me.
Yeah, this is my body. This is it. Do you love it? And you don't get a choice. But if they're at that same vibration, they're probably not dealing with body image issues, or maybe they have their same if you have some, and you can soothe each other the first time. Like, oh, I feel I'm a little overweight. Oh, I'm too skinny. I'm this or whatever. And those, you just shine those up, and you're like equal and opposite. And it's like, oh, your body's beautiful, and really I want part of that in my life. And what do you think of my body? And it's like, oh, now you've got somebody that met you at that level, and all those body shaming and past lover things that shrank you down, all of a sudden your power comes back, because it's like, oh, this person really saw me. And you can trust them because they're integral and they're deep and they're high vibration, right?
Yes.
And it's not about body. It's like, this woman that I'm talking to is not the woman I would have ever expected. It wasn't like what I thought was, or programmed by society to be attractive, but there's that depth and that transcends body or race or religion or any of that kind of stuff. And you're just like, fuck, this is exquisite.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes beyond what you would expect or you thought would be.
Because that's all the fucked up bullshit. That's all the stories and everybody taught you.
Yeah, it's always like for me, like I have a type, but it's, or people could have a type, but generally what you're calling in is not going to be that type.
Yeah. And what I always like to say to people when they say they have a type, and I say, how's that working out for you?
As you can see,
every single person has been spurned and shot, and that actually wounded them or forced them to heal more than anybody else.
Yes, it's a cycle.
It's a pull of an energy that could be a wounded little boy, but in a sexy body or whatever, that will just continually force you to assess if that's still you.
And I have been pulled to those sexy bodies with the little wounded boy. Oh my gosh. And that is not fun.
Mhm.
Oof.
And it wasn't for your highest good, but it was like societal programming, and that's what I've always wanted,
Yes.
and I've never got, and now you get it, and it's like, eh.
Exactly. And it's like, well, I'm at the age where I should be starting a family, blah, 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 blah. And like all
Mhm.
that other shit. Yo.
Mhm. But do you want to be a wounded little girl when you start a family?
Fuck no.
Exactly. So your mother's pressure to do it early on, is it really helping anyone?
Absolutely not.
So you're doing a good thing for your kids.
Doing a great thing. I'm saving people's lives
Well,
here.
including you, right? Can you imagine how your life would be all about your kids all of a sudden? You can't even do your own personal work once you have a baby.
No.
Not
No.
judging
And
people that have, but look at how everything turns off and changes the
yes,
minute you have this little child in
life.
your womb or in your arms.
This child is, oh my god, I'm gonna be so eccentric. It's, oh god.
Well, and I look back, my kids are 19, 16, and
Yeah.
13 now, and to look at the wounds I propagated from my father and my mother, and how those things were about screaming at my kids and
Yeah.
threatening to violence and spanking them and all those kind of things, I'd always hold back from them, but those were the wounds that my father and parents
Mm-hmm.
had, and they'd propagate towards me about how to keep a child safe and all this
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. Oh, like I traumatized my kids over and over and over again from reliving those things. And now I can look at them and say, okay, and we've worked through them, and we can talk, and it's less likely. It's still underneath, and I
Sure.
think it'll be part of us for the rest of our life. But it's not because we're bad. It's just because we get into an agreement with that child to have that sticky
It
piece
continues,
so
yes.
that they can deal with their piece, and eventually your piece will heal at the same time. It's not always that it's my job to heal or whatever. My middle son is going against the system right now, and I got to yell sometimes, and I got to be that father figure. I'm not proud of it, but it's like I'm being pulled to express in this way that it'll shut him down enough that whatever, I don't know. And I have to look at it hard because I went through it with my other kids, and it healed very easily there.
Yeah.
But there's something, maybe we had a past life together. There's some other
Mm,
thing that's in the middle that's still making me express in that old way. Or maybe it's this family thing I'm just letting go of. And it was the last gasps of it on low vibration that I was trying to prove or shrink or whatever. Right. So
something. Diminish something. Well, this was an excellent talk. I always feel like our talks are great.
I do too. Yeah. Well, I'm sure some people, it's like they can't watch all the way through because there's so much being shared in
Yes.
the energy. Um, Take it in small doses, watch for a half an hour, and then watch for another half an hour. Maybe
Yes.
we should do segments or something. But
Whatever.
I
We'll
never feel
figure
we're
it out.
complete unless we're at least an hour and a half or up
It
to
just goes.
all
It
the
just
stuff that needs
goes.
to come as of right
It
here and right now is
goes.
showing up. And I really feel I could use some help. I'm not a big YouTube guy or whatever, but I could
Yeah.
use some help, and we'll start collecting them in YouTube and make them part of the community and say, watch these, because there's stuff underneath that's going to help anybody at any level by just witnessing.
Okay. I can upload them to you. We'll talk business.
We'll figure
Yeah,
it
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll talk business after.
Yeah. Well, we're getting it all together, and anybody that wants to help, it's amazing. Did you watch Alexis's any part of her interview? I
No, should
interviewed
I?
her on Tuesdays. So Alexis is a beautiful young soul, and she's got some beautiful
Insights.
insights. If you look on her page, she was
Okay,
showing it
fine.
yesterday, and she says, "Look at the difference between me 3 years ago and now." And it was just her eyes, and it was just like dark and angry, and then
Oh,
her bright and airy, and it was just like
oh,
night and day. But that's how much work people are doing right now. And she's
yep.
barely 23, I think she said. So
Dude, that is awesome. Like if there, I can't, everything happens divinely, but if I could have done this work even 10 years ago, oh
mhm.
shit.
Look at the kickstart you would have had.
Whoo!
Sometimes I'm like, why did I wait till 51? But fuck, I'm getting younger every day,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be inner child for the next 30 years of my life. I'm going to be that guy with the the baby face I already got and just playing and having fun because I needed maturity to be able to see the gritty bits in between. And my level of experience is going to be that much higher off the charts because I went and did the work. I had the full experience. I could decompose it afterwards and be aware of why, which I wouldn't have got normally if I got it too soon.
Yeah.
Because I had a marriage that was sexless and I needed 15 years of that to have it happen. I needed to have 20 years to have 3 kids and to be able to speak from those places.
It all goes according.
Yeah. So,
oh,
and just realize that once we move into more 5D or higher density, lifetime is based on a whole bunch of 3D shit. And when we're fully in the light, there is no limit to how long a life exists. And you can stick around until you've used up all your possibilities or you've fully defined your unlimitedness. Because eventually you get back to God and really lifetime or any labels really don't matter in the same way, but it's about playing the game out. I hate to say the game, but
it is
sometimes people need to see that. So
definitely a game.
Any last words?
No.
No.
No. I'm just gonna end it with the affirmation or the sentence that the therapist told me, which is, I am a creative fountain who also listens.
I am a creative fountain that also listens. Beautiful. I don't know what affirmation I need right now. I need to go to bed and just lay.
Yeah.
Have some tears and let go of some more energy. It's all I can say is it's fucking exhausting.
It is. It is a full-time job.
And I honor the people at the deepest level, whether they think they're being respected or not. And the only way I can see is to do it exactly the way it's happening. But I will not choose to be shut down. I will not choose to close down or shut up or clam up or do whatever is needed to make people feel safe. Because I want better for everybody, especially myself. Now they just have a choice whether or not they see that as better or worse. And I can't change that. So I love them all.
Nice. Whew. All
Thank
right.
you for this opportunity with everyone. Thank you. We covered a lot of ground. We'll talk more soon.
Peace.
Peace. Loving you all. I'll call you back